Hey everyone, my name is Zach, and I'm an educator out in Sanger Unified. Let me take a minute and tell you about my experience within church. You all have just driven by some house of worship, and so I just want to tell you a little bit about my experience. So come from a family that has embraced adoption. So I have 5 siblings, 2 of which were adopted from Ethiopia, and then 3 of which were adopted having Down syndrome. And I can remember going into church and going into different houses of worship and realizing that those houses of worship didn't represent my family, both in terms of racial diversity and then also more for me critically was in terms of welcoming and having people with disabilities as part of the congregation. And so for me, I always wondered why. I mean, you look at Jesus and who he hung out with, who he spent his time with, and it was just littered, like literally surrounded by people with support needs, people who needed healing, people who had things that they were working through within their lives. And then I would walk into a congregation of people that's supposed to be an incarnation of Jesus and not see anyone who needed anything, right? And so for me, that has always been really a concern. It's something to think about. It's a question I've always had. You have 1 Corinthians 1:27 saying, God has chosen the weak things of the world to shame the strong. Where are our weaker vessels? And so my takeaway here is not that we not that we go out and reach out to people with disabilities for the sake of being kind and for the sake of it being right, but because we do it for the sake of our own spiritual gifting, because we do it because our church is missing out on the gifts that these people bring to a body. And so my recommendations for you is to look for people with support needs and welcome them like you would anyone else into your local places of worship, to find common ground, to go out and say hello, to be a part of these people's lives, to make space for them. Reminding yourself that every individual you meet, whether they have a disability or not, has gifts. And especially the people with disabilities, we don't always put them in a place where they are empowered to showcase how they benefit a body. And so that would be my challenge. That would be where I would direct you to start looking and being aware of who's around you.